Welcome to Outside Sales Talk, where we meet with industry experts to learn the strategies and tactics that make them successful. I'm your host, Steve Benson, and I've helped thousands of salespeople all over the world crush their quota. Today, I'll help you crush yours. Matt is president and founder of Heinz Marketing with 20 years of marketing and sales experience. He's an author of several books such as Successful Social Selling and Sales for Startups. And he's also an award-winning blogger and a recognized speaker. Matt has helped organizations like Amazon and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation establish successful sales and marketing strategies to help fuel their growth. He's also among the top 50 most influential people in sales lead management and the top 50 sales and marketing influencers. Matt, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Not bad at all. So today we're going to talk about the one of the areas that you're considered to be an expert in, social media, and how field salespeople, outside salespeople can best use social media in their sales processes.
Yeah.
So, well, I guess we'll start there. How can outside salespeople best use social media in their sales processes? I guess at a high level.
Yeah, I think social channels have become a powerful tool in the arsenal for field sales. The elephant in the room, let's get it out of the way out front. I don't think social selling or social media replaces things that have previously worked and continue to work. I have yet to see a prospect buy from social media. So the idea that we call it social selling, maybe a misnomer, maybe social marketing, social nurturing, social relationship building.
Yeah.
I think the social channels give us an opportunity to communicate in a more casual, a more conversational, and a more frequent way with our prospects, both those that are engaged in our pipeline and those that aren't yet. It's one of the best listening tools ever invented in terms of listening to the chatter from your prospects, from people in their organization, from the organizations themselves, to find buying signals and trigger events. Just because you see something happen on social doesn't mean you need to respond in social. Like, one of my best tactics as a sales guy doing sales for my own company is, if I see something on social, I pick up the phone and talk to someone about it, or I'll send an email or reference it the next time I have a meeting with them. So I think as a communication channel and as a listening channel, social media has been groundbreaking. It's been life-changing for field sales reps that have been able to adopt that and integrate it into their regular prospecting processes.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense to me. I guess, could you talk a little bit about how a field sales rep do you think should go about leveraging social media to get some of that nurturing that you're talking about?
Yeah. Well, I mean, by definition, if you're in the field, you've got a territory, you've got an area that you're working, a group of prospects that you're probably proactively watching. Even if you've never had a conversation with someone at company X, you can identify who the key decision makers are, who the influencers are, who are the people that are most likely to have a need that you can engage with. You can immediately start following them on social. You can immediately start watching what they're saying on LinkedIn and Twitter. You can immediately start following the company's social handles to see what the company's talking about. So not only are you looking for buying signals and trigger events that indicate the company has a need, you're also learning what the company cares about. Today, so, as we record this today, tonight is the college football national championship game in Atlanta, Georgia. I've had some amazing success engaging with prospects today who are either Georgia or Alabama alums who are very excited about tonight's game. So, whether they're diehard football fans or not, if you went to one of those schools, it's kind of a big deal. You're in the championship game. And so someone is going to respond to someone saying, "Good luck tonight, roll tide," right? I mean, and it's not about having a conversation about the tech sale or the IT sale you're trying to get, by the end of the quarter, but it's about relationship building. It's about rapport building. I think all that other information we get, insights we get about who our customers are and what they care about, helps you build credibility and trust and preference. And I think that's a really important thing to consider. I think too often we're looking for the silver bullet that's going to help us get the deal or get the deal converted, And what most sales reps know, and especially if you're in the field, you know, you're playing the long game. Like, you've been given a territory where you're supposed to build a long-term relationship with customers. You know that every moment in time, every touch point is an opportunity to create a competitive divide between you and your competitors, so that when that prospect is ready to buy, they're coming to you. My dad was in field sales for 35 years. He sold Caterpillar tractor equipment, and he recognized that the little things made a difference.
Yeah.
It's not every day you're going to walk into someone's office and they're ready to buy a backhoe. But when they are, who are they going to call? You know, are they going to call the best vendor in the market? Hopefully. Are they going to call someone that they enjoy? Are they going to call someone they think listens to them? Are they going to call someone that has taken the time to build a relationship? Yes. And so social media gives you a chance to increase the frequency with which you engage with people in that conversational relationship building way. It also gives you so many clues as to how and what to say in those conversations to increase trust and credibility with that prospect.
Yeah, that makes a tremendous amount of sense to me. For you, is it mostly about learning about, all right, is social, do you think the key thing is learning about prospects that you don't know anything about, or do you think it's more about nurturing and communicating with people that you're already with, or is it both?
It's definitely both, but I usually start with social as a listening channel, because I think and I do that on purpose, in part because I think a lot of people see social media as just another microphone just to shout a bunch of stuff at their prospect, right? Mm-hmm. And it is a powerful, proactive, outbound communication channel. But I think first and foremost, you use social as a means of listening. You're listening to what your customers say. You're listening to what your prospects are prioritizing. You're listening to what's going on in their environment. You're looking for opportunities to engage. You're looking for insights that can color and customize the outreach that you're making to try to get that prospect's attention. So I think first and foremost, it's a listening channel, but it's also a phenomenal engagement tool, right? I mean, most prospects, if they post something on social and you click the like button or you click the favorite button, they're going to see that you did that. It took you a half second, and yet that's another touch point on the path to building trust and familiarity. So engaging proactively your prospect doesn't have to be writing them a letter back, or every time you see something saying, hey, when are you ready to buy? Mm-hmm. The process of relationship building can happen just by them seeing that you're paying attention to them, that you're taking advantage of the little moments to show that you prioritize them before they're ready to buy. That makes a difference. That gets noticed. Yeah. So, I think sometimes social media is kind of like driving by someone's house at 35 miles an hour and trying to throw something into the mailbox. You know, you're gonna miss most of the time. But every once in a while, the prospect's gonna go check the mailbox and see something good in there. Say that's pretty good, and they're gonna associate that with your car. And then if you're good and if you do it long enough, you're gonna drive by, throw something in the mailbox. The prospect's not even gonna check the mailbox, but they're gonna recognize your car and associate your car with good stuff. You know, I mean, so if you can make yourself the proverbial ice cream truck of the sales world, that's a very powerful thing.
Yeah, it's funny you should bring this up, because we literally just had a meeting with our marketing team at Badger last week, and this exact topic came up, kind of the idea of, how can we leverage like LinkedIn better? Mm-hmm. And the thought was, well, we can create one of these customized lists, which I forget what LinkedIn's premium product is called now. I think it's Sales Navigator, their Sales mm-hmm. Navigator product. So you can create like targeted lists in that of all your customers and the people that are, the key decision makers at your customer that you can basically follow. And anytime with that customized list, you can look at it, and then whenever they do anything or post anything, it shows up almost in that news feed. And so we're thinking, we could just go through and like all this stuff and look at it for different things that are going on, in news information in general. And we have, there's thousands of people that we can't keep track of all of them by hand, but we thought that might be a nice way of like kind of figuring out who's out there and what are these companies doing and what's the news with them, basically.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think the advantage for those that most successfully leverage social to build relationships and manage their territory, especially in a field sales environment, are those that are doing exactly what you said, but they're doing it every day. Yeah. Right. I mean, the key to building trust in general is to be consistent and regular about doing it. Let me show you something. So, and I've developed this for myself, and we encourage a lot of our sales clients to do it as well. This is my daily do list, and it literally is laminated, right? And so on this laminated piece of paper are all the things that I need to be doing every day to build my business. So like I'm owner of a small agency. I'm the sales guy. I don't have a sales team. Right. So, on this list are things like, go, triage, content on LinkedIn, go through that list I have in Sales Navigator and just see what people are talking about. Social channels will tell you when it's someone's birthday, right? So you can say happy birthday to people. There's one of my prospects, like I just happened to send him an email, like I've got sort of a template email I'll send saying happy birthday and customize a couple things. And I assume he's a pretty popular, well-known guy, like based on his networks. He told me I was the only person who actually emailed him. That most people just click the standard happy birthday button on Facebook, but I was the only person that had taken another 15 seconds to just send him a quick email. Those things stand out.
Yeah.
So your comment about, going through your list in Sales Navigator and clicking like, fantastic. If you just do that once and then forget about it for another couple months, it's not going to have an impact. Laminate your list, like literally. And this does not take me more than like 10, 15 minutes a day to fly through this, because some of them take longer than others. Some take longer today than they will tomorrow, but it's the consistency and repetition of doing that that will really separate you from others.
Yeah. It's funny. I used to have a very similar list to that when I was a sales rep. It was in a Google Doc, and I would just every day I would fly through it in the morning, and just kind of here are the patterns I need to go through every day.
Super important.
So how do you identify which social platform is the right one for a given industry? Because I'm thinking that some. For social selling, it's not equally effective in all industries, and in some industries, certain platforms are more powerful than others.
That's true, and I would say you got to pay attention to not only what people in your industry are using, but what different people at different levels of the buying committee are using. If for a lot, depending on what industry you're in, let's say you're selling into B2B and you're selling into like a tech, you have a tech product, you're selling to the tech, the IT department. Well, it's possible that the CIO is maybe a Gen Xer or a baby boomer, and their media consumption habits and their channel habits are going to be different than the engineers, who may not be the decision makers, but maybe the implementers and the influencers of the deal. They may be using a totally different set of channels, right? Or there may be some overlap. Maybe they both use LinkedIn, but the Gen Xers are more likely to be using Twitter, and the millennials are more likely to be on Snapchat, or more likely to be on a different channel, right? So I think you have to, the answer is in your buyer personas. It's in understanding who your customers are, what channels they tend to use, and associating yourself there. But it's not a one size fits all for an industry or for a company, because the channel consumption habits come down to the individuals, and those habits are different in many cases with different generations.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Well, I guess also on the flip side, not just with the customer, but within an organization that is selling, within the sales organization, there's managers, there's the sales team, the individual sales reps, sales trainers, sales operations people. There's people on the marketing team. They're kind of in charge of the overall message that your company is putting out to the world on social media.
Right.
Who do you think? Who do you think has the most important roles there, and how can these different groups have the biggest impact?
Inside the organizations, you mean? Inside the sellers?
Yeah, the sellers.
Yeah, it's a great question, because I think the ownership of the communication isn't necessarily tied to one person or another. I think if you are in field sales, you cannot count on someone outside of yourself to help you hit your number. You can't hope that marketing does their job building up your company's social channels. It will feed you enough intelligence, or feed you enough insights, or feed you enough leads to help you hit your number. I mean, if you've been in sales for any period of time, I mean, that at the end of the day, you and you alone control whether you make your number or not, right?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. So I think you have to own that. I do think if I step back and look at the organizational opportunity, I don't care who does it. It could be sales operations. It could be marketing operations. It could be a social media or marketing communication team. But a set of rules, or a set of processes, or like some central group that helps people create their laminated sheets, or some central group that once a week says, hey, here's the 8 articles you should be curating out and sharing with your audience, because this makes you look smart, and this is something they're going to want to read and associate value with you. individual field reps should not do that on their own. They shouldn't have to do that purely on their own. That should be centralized. So I think about these best practices, the habits, the checklists, the systems, the content that goes into it, that should be centralized. Mm-hmm. And what if I'm a good field rep, should be able to take that, should be able to filter that of which is most relevant to their market, to each individual customer, and then augment that with information they know alone, or they uniquely applies to their region, to their industry, to whatever their territory is.
Yeah.
But I think that companies can dramatically improve the efficacy of social selling efforts and the efficacy of their field sales team by centralizing some of that best practice development and content sharing.
Okay, that's really interesting. So I guess that's a key piece of advice that I think a lot of people that are listening to this are field sales reps, and maybe their company is doing a great job getting with air cover from the marketing side with social media. Maybe they're not. This is one of the, I guess, the key pieces of advice I would look to take from this session is, if you're a sales rep and your marketing team doesn't have these types of processes in place, like feeding all the sales teams, hey, here's a piece of content you should be sharing this week, or here's four pieces of content you should be dripping out to the people that are following you and your relationships on social media. Yeah. Let's start feeding the reps that, so they get that reminder and they have the best piece of content of the week to share out. If you were a rep, and you felt like your company wasn't providing the air cover on the social media side that would really help the company and help you develop more leads, is there a resource or something that you would recommend the rep give to the marketing team that kind of says, hey, here's how you communicate with the world via social media to effectively generate leads?
Yeah. I mean, you could just do it the way I do it, right? So, I mean, on this list are, I'm developing my own content sources. I'm finding content through a bunch of third-party sources and then redistributing it back out. So there are a handful of sales and marketing blogs and newsletters that I subscribe to, that I will go and read or scan through and find the articles, find the content that I think is most interesting to our audience, which is mostly, B2B sales and marketing leaders. And then we curate that into our content. We curate that across our social channels. We curate it into a weekly blog post every Saturday morning called B2B Reads. That just is a summary of some of the best outside sales and marketing content we found during the week. And that's just part of our habits. That's part of my habits, right? Of putting that content into my social channels, looking at, I've got a number of filters set up that will send me an email alert when someone in my pipeline or someone in our named account list or someone in my first degree network is mentioned in the news or quoted in an article or their company is recognized somewhere. So those are all triggers for me to engage. And most of that content is coming from various social channels as well. So, I think you can set up these systems for yourself as a field rep. You want to get it to the point where, this is a small percentage of your time, so you're not spending half your day doing this. But I've found that over time, the contribution to my pipeline from my 10 to 15 minutes a day is more than worth it. And there's a replacement cost to, in my case, having to go out and hire a sales team. In my case, it's a replacement cost of having a going and doing, buying leads and buying marketing to have to do demand gen for us, right? And so if you're a rep, I actually think that making an investment in social engagement and an investment in content curation through your channels, the replacement cost is how many more phone sale, cold calls do you want to make?
Right.
Like how many more cold outreaches do you want to make versus using social to get warm referrals, using social to get warm introductions, using social and content as a way of getting prospects to know who you are, to recognize your car as you drive by before they even stop you someday and say, wait a minute, I like your content. Tell me what you do.
Well, fantastic, man. I'd love to do a couple sales in 60 seconds questions, which means it's a section of the show where we rapid fire ask you questions, and you get about 60 seconds to answer the question.
All right, I'm gonna time myself. Bring it.
All right. So first, how do you know which social media platforms to use?
Listen to your customers. If your customers are using it, you should probably figure it out. If it's a channel that seems to be hot amongst everyone else, but your customers aren't on it, you don't have to worry about it. Just follow your customers, and that's usually the best answer.
Got it. That makes sense. Is it better to focus on a few or to use a few social media platforms or to use several of them?
There's no one size fits all answer, but I think fewer is better. I think, if you identify a couple that are particularly valuable to your customers, and if you can really invest in growth there and engagement there, I think that stands out better.
Mm-hmm.
I think, frequency and value of content in a few channels tends to reflect better in the market and make you look better than spreading yourself too thin across multiple channels that you can't really commit to long term without way too many resources.
All right. And should salespeople have separate accounts besides their personal ones to use that they use just for their sales, just for work?
No. And this is a hard one. This is a controversial one, right? Because I think a lot of sales reps don't necessarily, want to associate those two things together. I think that, if you're using LinkedIn and Twitter, it's a lot easier to make those be a business and a personal channel. If you're using Facebook, that's a lot harder to separate. But I think that if you are a sales rep, you in part are selling you. You are selling yourself, you're selling your personality. And so I think, figuring out the right balance between personal and professional tends to be the right approach.
What type of content, in your opinion, gets the most
Non-work related content. I think, I tell you what, I mean, so like when I tweet about, stuff outside of work, I tend to get way more engagement. So like, I write about and tweet about, B2B sales and marketing all the time. But when I tweet something about barbecue or college football or family, I get a lot more interest, right? These are the things people care about,
Yeah.
So I think, showing a little personality, showing a little humanity in yourself and in your brand and your company goes a long way.
All right. Great thought. How many hours per week do you think a salesperson should spend on social media, just to benchmark everybody here?
Boy, so if you're doing it right, and using tools that you can queue up content and spread those out, and then using a tool like a Hootsuite or a Sprout Social, I think you can look like you're omnipresent and on a regular basis and do it in 10 to 15 minutes a day.
Okay.
We all know you can go down the rabbit hole and spend hours reading, and you can,
Right.
and I can justify spending an hour on LinkedIn just looking at people's stuff and finding new things to engage on and new things to like.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a point of diminishing returns. I think if you're focused and disciplined on the right people in the right places, 10 to 15 minutes a day should be able to do it.
Okay, great. What's the biggest mistake you see people making on social media for sales?
I think it's assuming that it's a sales channel. Yeah, assuming that you are going to be able to use social as a way to actually get into an active buying conversation. I mean, social rarely works as a means of trying to get someone into a demo and trying to get someone to close.
Mm-hmm.
So calling it social selling probably is a misnomer. I think understanding that social is a means of building credibility, of maintaining a relationship, of nurturing your prospects and building trust and rapport. I think, social marketing, social nurturing, far more appropriate and more effective use of the channel.
Yeah, that's social nurturing and social marketing equals social selling. That's a takeaway right there. I'll tell you.
There you
go. What is the biggest measurable success you've seen from someone implementing social selling in their sales process?
A pipeline impact for sure. I mean, like even though social selling, I don't think is a direct selling tool. It shouldn't be used as a direct selling tool. I've seen this in my own business, and I've seen others be able to directly correlate engagement they have with prospects on social and those prospects in their companies getting into and through the pipeline. Even inadvertently, we've seen both those that are actively doing it and those that are not doing it in certain companies, and we can measure their pipeline, size of pipeline, health of pipeline, conversion of pipeline. Even sales cycle length shortens when you're leveraging social selling tactics and you're leveraging the social channels and the content therein more appropriately.
So what can an outside salesperson do right now to get started with integrating social selling into their work processes? What would you recommend?
I would start with an inventory of your target customers. You can spend forever out on your channel and throwing up content and just, clicking and liking randomly and in an undisciplined way. If you're a field sales rep, if you have a territory, start building a list of the companies you're selling to, the people in those companies you want to build relationships, and start engaging with them. Literally go build a target list on Twitter of the people in your target accounts that you want to engage with. Make it a private list so none of your competitors can see it, but then put that private list into a column in Hootsuite and just start looking at it every day. And you will every day get a stream of the things your target accounts are thinking about. Click it, like it, retweet it, engage with it. That is a place to start, because that is a very focused way of engaging with and learning from and listening to the very people you want to sell to.
Okay. That makes a ton of sense. And if you were to give a field salesperson managing a territory out there one piece of advice on social media, if you could get them to do one thing, what would that one thing be?
Listen. Just listen to the right people. Your ability to be in the room with your prospects is finite. Your ability to spend time on the phone with your prospects is finite. Your ability to listen to your prospects talk and chatter on social is 24/7. Mm-hmm. You are a fly on the wall. You are a camera in the room listening to your prospects. If you leverage social media as a way to listen to your prospect more actively, every once in a while I'll get a sales rep say, well, 98% of what prospects are talking about has nothing to do with what I'm trying to sell. And I say, that is the point. You get to know what those people care about. You get to know what their priorities are today. You get to know that they're excited about the college football game tonight. Like, those are for good sales reps that know how to build relationships. Those insights are gold. So yeah, the number one tip to get started, just listen and use your instincts, use your skills, use your expertise to turn that into engagement.
All right. Well, Matt, I'm going to try to summarize what we've learned today, just so everyone can kind of bring it fresh in their mind. And because a lot of our drivers or listeners are driving around out in the field while they listen to this, so they're not taking notes with their hands on there. So we have to try to make it stick by repetition. So the things that I've been taking notes to here that we've learned today, I said social media channels are a game changer for salespeople, as they give us an opportunity to listen to our prospects and engage with them. Mm-hmm. Social selling is not so much about selling, but about building relationships, trust, and rapport with the prospect. The key to be successful in using social media is to be consistent and be on it every day, even if it's just 10 minutes. That can make all the difference. Mm-hmm. You have to understand your buyer and be active on their most popular social media platforms in order to engage with them effectively. Another thing was a key takeaway is that centralizing your social media efforts within your company is a key to leveraging these tools and to be more successful on the outbound side. So kind of centralizing with the marketing team, for example, having one person feed all the salespeople. Here's a great thing to share over social with all your prospects, and having them figure out do the research and legwork on what's the best place in the first place to be going after. Social selling is social nurturing and social marketing. Those would be better names for it. So there you go. So I mean, for people that are out there listening, you can get started by building a target list of people that you want to sell to, whether it's through Twitter or LinkedIn or Facebook, depending on what kind of B2B business you're in, and get started building those relationships and listening. And that by listening to your prospects on these platforms, that's the number one takeaway. I think you can really turn that into knowledge and engagement about those prospects.
It's a good list.
There we go. Well, I mean, you really broke this stuff down really cleanly. I mean, so I guess, Matt, where can our listeners read more about your work and reach out to you?
Yeah, so I appreciate that. You can just find us at heinzmarketing.com, HEINZ marketing.com. We do write quite a bit about field sales, sales enablement, social selling. I wrote a book called Successful Social Selling. You get a free copy on our site. You can download it there. And then we're on Twitter at Heinz Marketing. And then I'm just Matt, MATT at heinzmarketing.com. So take advantage. We got a ton of content on our site. Come get it. It's all for free. And would love to hear anybody's particular challenge, and happy to help.
Fantastic. Well, we'll put that in the notes of the podcast here. I really appreciate you coming on, Matt. This has been a fantastic session.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Have a great one.
You too.